Hi, my name is Pat, and this is my channel, Book Chat with Pat, and I'm glad that you're here. One of my subscribers, Patricia H., had the great idea that I might want to feature the poetry of former poet laureate Tracy K. Smith on my channel during Rocket Summer. Rocket Summer is an out-of-this-world reading event created by the wonderful Michael K. Vaughan, in which we are reading classic science fiction written from the 19th century through 1969 during the month of July. There are also a number of co-hosts to this event, and I'll list all of their names in the notes below. I'm honored to be a co-host this year. Tracy K. Smith is very much a poet of today, but her book, Life on Mars, which was awarded the Pulitzer Prize in 2012, is in large part an elegy to her engineer father, Floyd William Smith, who worked on the Hubble Space Telescope. I decided that I would devote a short Poetry Thursday episode to Life on Mars during this special science fiction reading event. Tracy K. Smith was born in 1972. She was the 22nd Poet Laureate of the United States from 2017 through 2019. She's the author of 5 volumes of poetry and 1 memoir. She earned her bachelor's degree at Harvard and her MFA at Columbia. At Harvard, she studied with Seamus Heaney. Smith joined the faculty of Princeton University in 2006. And in 2019, she was named the chair of Princeton's Lewis Center of the Arts. During summers, she also taught at my alma mater, Middlebury College's Breadloaf School of English, where in 2014 she held the Robert Frost Chair of Literature. In 2021, she joined the faculty at Harvard, where she is a professor of English and a professor of African and African American studies. Smith wrote Life on Mars, as I said, in part as an elegy to her father, Floyd William Smith, who worked on the Hubble Space Telescope. He died in 2008. This collection of poetry was her third, and this is the one that earned her the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. Joel Brouwer said in his review of this book in the New York Times that Smith, quote, turns her eyes to the stars in search of perspective and solace. In her elegies mourning her father's death, outer space serves both as a metaphor for the unknowable zone into which her father has vanished and as a way of expressing the hope that his existence hasn't ceased, has merely changed. He goes on, quote, Smith is quick to suggest that the important thing is not to discover whether or not we're alone in the universe. It's to accept, or at least endure, the universe's mystery. Close quote. I'm going to read from Smith's My God, It's Full of Stars, in which she grapples with the loss of her father and her grief over it. The title of the poem comes from Arthur C. Clarke's 1968 novel 2001, A Space Odyssey, where astronaut David Bowman enters the Star Gate and says this just before losing contact with mission control. So I'm going to read the elegy. It's a poem written in several parts. My God, it's full of stars, Part 1. We like to think of it as parallel to what we know, only bigger. One man against the authorities, or one man against a city of zombies. One man who is not, in fact, a man, sent to understand the caravan of men now chasing him like red ants, let loose down the pants of America. Man on the run. Man with a ship to catch, a payload to drop, the message going out to all of space. Though maybe it's more like life below the sea, silent, buoyant, bizarrely benign, relics of an outmoded design. Some like to imagine a cosmic mother watching through a spray of stars, mouthing, yes, yes, as we toddle toward the light, biting her lip if we teeter at some ledge, longing to sweep us to her breast. She hopes for the best, while the father storms through adjacent rooms, ranting with the force of kingdom come, not caring anymore what might snap us in its jaw. Sometimes what I see is a library in a rural community, all the tall shelves in the big open room, and the pencils in a cup at circulation, gnawed on by the entire population. The books have lived here all along, belonging for weeks at a time to one or another in the brief sequence of family names, speaking at night mostly to a face, a pair of eyes, the most remarkable lies. Part 2. Charlton Heston is waiting to be let in. He asked once politely, a second time with force from the diaphragm. The third time he did it like Moses, arms raised high, face an apocryphal white, shirt crisp, suit trim. He stoops a little coming in, then grows tall. He scans the room. He stands until I gesture, then he sits. Birds commence their evening chatter. Someone fires charcoals out below. He'll take a whiskey if I have it, water if I don't. I ask him to start from the beginning, but he goes only halfway back. That was the future once, he says, before the world went upside down. Hero, survivor, God's right-hand man. I know he sees the blank surface of the moon where I see language built from brick and bone. He sits straight in his seat, takes a long, slow, high, thespian breath, then lets it go. For all I know, I was the last man on this earth. And may I smoke? The voices outside soften. Planes jet past, heading off or back. Someone cries that she does not want to go to bed. Footsteps overhead. A fountain in the neighbor's yard babbles to itself, and the night air lifts the sound indoors. It was another time, he says, picking up again. We were pioneers. Will you fight to stay alive here, riding the earth toward God knows where? I think of Atlantis buried under ice, gone one day from sight, the shore from which it rose, now glacial and stark. Our eyes adjust to the dark. Part 3. Perhaps the great error is believing we're alone, that the others have come and gone, a momentary blip, when all along space might be chock full of traffic, bursting at the seams with energy we neither feel nor see, flush against us, living, dying, deciding, setting solid feet down on planets everywhere, bowing to the great stars that command, pitching stones at whatever are their moons. They live wondering if they are the only ones, knowing only the wish to know, and the great black distance we flicker in. Maybe the dead know, their eyes widening at last, seeing the high beams of a million galaxies flick on at twilight, hearing the engines flare, the horns not letting up, the frenzy of being. I want it to be one notch below Bedlam, like a radio without a dial, wide open, so everything floods in at once, and sealed tight so nothing escapes, not even time, which should curl in on itself and loop around like smoke, so that I might be sitting now beside my father as he raises a lit match to the bowl of his pipe for the first time in the winter of 1959. Part 4. In those last scenes of Kubrick's 2001, when Dave is whisked into the center of space, which unfurls in an aurora of orgasmic light before opening wide like a jungle orchid for a love-struck bee, then goes liquid, paint in water, and then gauze wafting out and off, before finally the night tide, luminescent and vague, swirls in and on and on. In those last scenes, as he floats above Jupiter's vast canyons and seas, over the lava-strewn plains and mountains packed in ice that whole time, he doesn't blink. In his little ship, blind to what he rides, whisked across the wide screen of unparceled time, who knows what blazes through his mind? Is it still his life he moves through, or does that end at the end of what he can name? On set, it's shot after shot till Kubrick is happy. Then the costumes go back on their racks, and the great gleaming set goes black. Part 5. When my father worked on the Hubble telescope, he said they operated like surgeons, scrubbed and sheathed in papery green, the room a clean, cold, and bright white. He'd read Larry Niven at home, and he'd drink scotch on the rocks, his eyes exhausted and pink. These were the Reagan years, when we lived with our finger on the button and struggled to view our enemies as children. My father spent whole seasons bowing before the oracle eye, hungry for what it would find. His face lit up whenever anyone asked, and his arms would rise, as if he were weightless, perfectly at ease in the never-ending night of space. On the ground, we tied postcards to balloons for peace. Prince Charles married Lady Di. Rock Hudson died. We learned new words for things. The decade changed. The first few pictures came back blurred, and I felt ashamed for all the cheerful engineers, my father and his tribe. The second time, the optics jibed. We saw to the edge of all there is. So brutal and alive, it seemed to comprehend us back. So that's a little bit about Tracy K. Smith, U.S. Poet Laureate, and her Pulitzer Prize winning collection, Life on Mars. And thank you, Patricia H., for this great suggestion. As always, I thank you for watching. I hope that you're doing well. I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.